Investing in yourself pays off in such big ways. And even like the branding agency, it was expensive. I had to save some money for it. But doing that, I mean, one, I think it really lights a fire when you shell out that kind of money. Like you do the work, you show up and you're there and you're all in. But that's when the biggest change happens. It's hiring experts and failure where the growth comes from, I think.
That was Meggan Hill, and this is episode number 131 of the Chopped Podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Marley of the blog Namely Marley. I am your host, and this is the Chopped Podcast. You know this is a place for people just like you, bloggers who love food. So what are we doing here? Well, every week my goal is to share with you thoughts, stories, interviews, everything related to food blogging so we can all learn together about what works with food blogging and maybe even a little bit about what doesn't. Before we get into the show today, I just want to share with you something really exciting. It's the Chopped Academy webinar that's coming soon. I know you are working so hard to make the best food photography possible. And I also know that you're working on video, social media, trying to grow your audience every way you can. All these things are so important. And I know that you're working on creating better recipes too. You're doing it all. How do I know this is true? Because you're listening to this podcast, just like thousands of other food bloggers who are listening to this podcast, trying to take your food blog to the next level. And yet sometimes I feel like this field, I don't know, it's so competitive, and it feels like if you don't do the right things on Pinterest or Facebook, or if they happen to change their algorithm, then your site traffic takes a nosedive, or it doesn't grow as fast as you want it to, or you had hopes of how fast it was going to grow and it's just not growing the way you want it to. It can be so discouraging. Trust me, I've been there. I think we've all been there at one point or another. So I love today's guest, Meggan Hill. She just what she said at the beginning of that little snippet that we played. She said failure and hiring experts have been the things that have really propelled her growth. Failure, because we all have to be in that mindset of trying new things, and sometimes that's going to work and sometimes that's not, and just being in that mindset of just trying new things is really huge. But also hiring experts, because I feel like that's the secret ingredient to taking your blog to greater heights. So you all heard Casey Markey. He was on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he is this SEO expert for food bloggers. I mean, he's on staff with Food Blogger Pro. He's worked with mega sites like Simply Recipes and Steamy Kitchen. So you could hire him to do an SEO audit for your site, but guess what? He is so good at what he does that there's this huge waiting list. So even if you hired him today, he's not going to be able to look at your blog for several months. And it costs around $1,000. And I'm sure because he's in such great demand that price is only going to go up. So if you're interested in working with Casey and you want to do it right away, and you want to find a more affordable way to do that, you are going to love this webinar. It's called Maximizing Blog Visibility, Dominating Google in 2017. There are so many food blogs out there, but only 10 first page results. And we want you to have your blog in those first 10 search results. How can you make that happen? Search engine optimization. Casey will cover the most common SEO problems facing food bloggers today. You'll learn about optimizing your blog with Google best practices. He's also going to show you how content, link equity, mobile usability, page speed, and also your recipe plugins, how they all work together to rank your posts competitively. Okay, so this webinar is going to include a live slide deck with Q&A covering the most popular SEO related food problems experienced by food bloggers. Also, just listen to Meggan Hill. She's our guest today, and she's talking about how she worked with Casey and tripled her traffic in 10 months. That's huge. So I know you're going to want to take advantage of this exciting opportunity. So how do you participate? Register for the live webinar being held on Thursday, June 8th at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Can't make that time? Don't worry. We will send you the recording to people who registered, so you'll get that. Make sure you register right away to take advantage of the early bird pricing that's only available for a little bit longer. Go to chopped.academy/webinar to buy your ticket today. Oh, wait. And one more thing I wanted to tell you. Everyone who registers will receive access to the spreadsheet we created to help track the SEO changes that you'll want to make to your site, because it's one thing to learn the information, but it's quite another to actually apply those changes. This spreadsheet is amazing. It makes the work so much easier because it tracks the progress and gives you a percent done. And I think that to me, at least it was just huge to be able to say, okay, I'm 33% done. I've got this much more to go. If I can just make it to 50%, then I'm going to be there. Or, I'm 60% done. You can also share this tool with your virtual assistant. I had both my virtual assistant and I working on these things together. It was very nice to be able to just see the changes that we're making right there in real time. To me, the spreadsheet is just one more way we are working hard to make your food blog the best it can be. Okay, let's get to today's episode. Today I'm talking with Meggan Hill. She's of the site Culinary Hill. I love this episode. Talking to Meggan was so fun. I think it's because food blogging is not just it didn't feel like a check the boxes kind of experiment with Meggan. She really has big goals. In fact, she's even created this 3-page essay on her goals, and she reads it every single morning. Isn't that so inspiring? I love this. Do you remember when Kara Anzus of the site Fork and Beans talked about how important it is to know your why and to feel connected with your why, and that it's not our business to know the how? In other words, staying connected to your why is what makes the how happen. Well, today's discussion with Meggan kind of feels like that in action. She is living her why. And if she gets off track from her why, she has her 3-page essay that she will read to get her back on track. I don't know about you, but it makes me want to go write a 3-page essay of my own so I can start reading it every day. I mean, I feel pretty connected with my why right now. However, I do go through those periods. I'm sure we all do. And Meggan has talked about them as well. And so I just feel like what a great idea to go write something that just makes you feel connected with what you're doing every single day. I call today's episode Taking Your Food Blog from Good to Great. Why? Well, because I read that book, Good to Great, a few years ago. It's a wonderful read if you haven't read it yet. It's fairly short. The people who wrote it basically interview various organizations that were very good to start with. And then they made the transition to a great organization. And that's not an easy transition to make. And so they talk about these companies and they share some of the commonalities of traits that these organizations took on to help make that transition happen. I think the same could be true of food blogs as well. And even if you're still in the process of trying to build your site to good, you can follow the same strategies that Meggan talks about in today's show. Meggan talks about what she did to take her food blog from good. She was at 400,000 page views a month. That's pretty good, right? I mean, I think a lot of us would say that's really good. And then she built it up to over 1 million page views a month. And that's great. So she took her food blog from good to great. And specifically what she did is she hired a marketing firm that specializes in food blogs to help create her branding message, to help her understand and connect better with her brand. She also hired an SEO firm, which is Casey Markey, and he did an SEO site audit of her site. She said that after she worked with him and after she followed his suggestions, she went from 400,000 page views to 1.2 million page views per month in 10 months. Wow, that's impressive. She also joined a mastermind group with like-minded professionals. Meggan hired a professional food blogger who served as a mentor and a coach to her. And then this coach also connected her with a group of professionally minded entrepreneurs. I thought that was a bold step. And that is the kind of thing that can make a big difference. And I think those are the kinds of things, we can all feel a little isolated in the work that we're doing. And I don't know about you, but sometimes when I get too isolated, it's like, I don't know, the ideas start to kind of pile up in my brain and they don't actually get to doing them. And I am not happy when I'm in that phase of mind. So I am currently in a mastermind group and I definitely feel the difference that happens. You feel like you're kind of working with this board of directors, these people who are supportive with you, but they're also pushing you too. So there's a good feeling there. Meggan also talks about how the strategy required commitment and it also created an atmosphere of collaboration and accountability for her. It was kind of like a magic formula, I guess, that really, it's really helped her to find her passion. I think you can find yours too. Anyway, I think you're going to love today's episode, so let's get straight to it. Here's today's feature interview with Meggan Hill. Hey everyone, I'm happy to have Meggan Hill of the site Culinary Hill on the show today. Hey Meggan, welcome to the Chopped Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to be talking with you, in fact. And we have a lot of really good stuff to talk about today, but I thought it might be helpful for everybody if you could just begin with a little bit of information about, like maybe why it is you started your blog.
Sure. So back in 2011, I self-published one of those little church or school fundraising style cookbooks full of recipes that my friends and family were sort of known for. And so after I handed that out to everyone, I realized there's got to be a better way to do this. And I think it was my husband that said, why don't you start a food blog? And I didn't know what that meant. And I started doing Google searches. And I think I signed up for an LLC and all this crazy stuff. And I dived right in. And, there's a lot of technical things, but I really liked it. And so that's kind of how I got started. Then we moved to Los Angeles shortly after that. And I wasn't really super into the food blog at that point, but around the end of 2012, I started to focus on it. I quit my job out here and really decided to make it a big part of my life. And that's kind of when it started to make sense and take off a little. So
I imagine, I just love to talk about names, and I imagine that Culinary Hill is obviously a combination of your last name. Is that what inspired you to name that?
Well, yes, it is the last name. My name, what is it called? Your birth name is Edelhuber. So that's
okay.
Yeah. So Hill is a total upgrade. So I wanted to do something with Hill because I just had this vision of rolling hills. I'm from Wisconsin and whatnot. Yeah. But here's the thing. Recipe Hill was taken. There was this guy in Arizona that was squatting on the domain, and I emailed him and he would not give it up. By the way, he gave it up last year and I bought it just out of spite. But
good for you. I love it.
So I have that one too. But anyway, so I ended up settling on Culinary Hill. And now that I'm in culinary school, that makes a lot more sense. But obviously it's related to food. So, but yeah, it was really the hill part and then something that had to do with food, but not Recipe Hill because couldn't have it.
Yeah. So it's really, it's a great name. And I love those names that you can discover like that the domain name is available and the Twitter handle is available. Yes. Everything's there.
The only thing I don't like is I don't know that everyone knows how to spell culinary. So when I tell people, I'm always like, culinary has just one L. I don't know if they intuitively know that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like
I never have thought about that before. I guess I don't know. That's a good point. It probably is one of those words that gets misspelled sometimes.
Yeah. Probably not by anybody that listens to this podcast because everyone's into food, but in the general population, I always worry about that, but should just let it go.
So were you into cooking before? Obviously, yes. You have an interest in cooking. You did this recipe book for everybody.
Yes. So I've always loved to cook. I mean, I think in high school is when I started experimenting and I made some really terrible food. And then all through college, I was cooking. And then, into my adult life, when I started working, it was really an outlet for creative expression and a hobby and just what I wanted to do. So I would take my weekends and just make all this food for no reason. I would make maybe 4 or 5 courses and spend the whole day on it just because it was fun and relaxing for me. And it still is. I love to cook to unwind. And now as a food blogger, I don't necessarily get to make all the food that I want to make for fun. A lot of it's like, what time of day is it? And is the light good? And what do I need to put on my blog? But if I had a day or if somebody comes over and I get a chance to just cook for pleasure, it's wonderful.
I know. I love that feeling of putting the measuring cups aside and just being free-spirited again.
Yes. And just, what do I want to eat today? Not, what are people searching for? What time of year is it? Or, when was the last time I put a dessert up or something like that?
I know. And, what should I be fixing today? Because it's going to be on the site rather than, what would I like to eat today?
Right. That's never the question.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about photography because, it seems like that's an area that's sometimes it can trip people up at the beginning. Did you have photography skills moving into
No,
this?
I had none. I mean, actually, photography for sure tripped me up at the beginning. I would admit to that. I think it was probably around the end of 2012 or the beginning of 2013 that my husband was like, okay, well, if you're going to do this, let me buy you a DSLR. Up until that, I was using, the little Sony point and shoot or whatever it was. But even after I had the camera, it was really challenging for me. And I think even now I would never say like, oh, the photography is so easy, but I have a pretty good system down. I know where to shoot, what times to shoot, how to style and prop because I've done it so much. I feel like I take 300 pictures per day, for the last few years. And so over time you get better, obviously, but it never came naturally to me. I had no previous experience with it. I wasn't even the person that took photography in high school, nothing. So I literally just learned it. And I bought some ebooks along the way. And I just think practicing, and I got some really good advice from other friends too who took good photos. So
it sounds like you have a very supportive husband.
He's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
It's really great when somebody bankrolls you so you can pursue your dreams.
Yes. That really is nice, isn't it?
Yes.
So, but do you remember the moment when you realized that, like, okay, this started out as a hobby and something, maybe a way of sharing your recipes with other people? Do you remember the moment where you thought, oh, I think this could be a business?
I guess I don't really remember the exact moment that I realized that I could make as much money as I make, but I remember at the time when I quit my job at Warner Brothers, I knew that I wanted to build it into a business. And I don't know, I feel like that for me was the same as this could be a business. Like, I want this to be a business. It was the same thing.
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. In other words, you did have this time where you realized there was the potential there, and,
yes,
and that spark was created, I guess.
Yeah, because I went into it, thinking, well, I'm not going to work a traditional job, so I have to find a way to make this work. So, yeah, I guess I didn't really know. I had no idea it would take me this far or what it would turn into for sure. But I knew other people were doing it, and I wanted to try.
So the first several years, it sounds like you were on kind of trial and error with the photography and with different things about food blogging, and also moving from Wisconsin to California. That's a big move.
Yes, sure was.
And then somewhere in that, things started to happen for you that turned your site into something that I think a lot of people would consider to be a very good site. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So I was, for a long time, for the first few years, I was doing what I call anxiety-driven content creation. It's kind of
I love that. That should be a complex of a food blogger. Wait, say that again. Anxiety-driven
content creation. No, and let me tell you what it looks like. Anxiety-driven content creation looks like scrolling through Pinterest on a Friday night, seeing people with foil packet dinners going viral, and deciding that you should make foil packet dinners. Even though you don't like them, you don't cook that way. That's what that moment looks like. Or you see vegan chocolate mousse and you're not vegan and you don't want to make your mousse with avocado, but somebody else did it and it's going viral and therefore you should.
Oh my God, I have done that so many times.
Yes.
ADCC, it's a thing.
Yes. And so that was how, I think through that, I had enough of the one-hit wonders that my site got some traction and it began to grow, but it was anxious. It was stressful and you never knew what was going to be next. And I was blogging food that I didn't necessarily want to blog, but I thought other people might want it. And then I had these new group, the friends out in California, the California moms, and they're telling me like they want to eat this way and they want to eat that way. And it's all the stuff that I'm not familiar with and that I don't personally eat because I'm from Wisconsin and we put mayonnaise and cream cheese on everything.
Not chia seeds.
Right. So yeah. The turning point was I hooked up with an agency called Cook It Media to talk about branding. And this is going to sound really obvious, but my brand is blogging Midwestern food. And I really needed a professional to come in and help me find my story. And so it took, several months to kind of figure it out. And they said, and I thought it would happen in a day. I thought, well, I'll meet them for coffee and we'll talk about this and I'll know my brand. And they said, by the time we're done, you'll know your brand backwards and forwards, and you'll be able to pin it down into a small box. And I was like, okay, whatever you say. But it is that it's true, and also that it takes a long time. But I do know the brand. And when I started doing that, well, one, I was happy about the content I was making. And two, it was really resonating with my readers. Well, and three, my traffic took off. So it was amazing.
So your blog went from this shiny red button syndrome to it has a purpose, and then you were connected with that purpose too. I can just feel that. It feels really good.
Yes, and now, I can look in an old church cookbook or an old Herberger's cookbook, or I can talk to my grandma about the recipes that she made when she was growing up, or I can remember what my mom made me for my birthday dinners as a child, and that is where my brand lives.
Oh, that's nice. That's a lovely story too.
Isn't it? And it makes me
Yeah.
so happy. My heart sings.
Ah, yes.
And I don't make foil packet dinners unless it's for like maybe if you're camping, then it's fine.
Yeah, I want to tell you, I'm vegan, and just the idea of avocado chocolate mousse just doesn't do it for me. It may do really well on Pinterest, but I don't know, I just can't do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think it's true. Like we all have like it sounds to me like you've got that song and you've learned it and now you're singing it. So that's great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So you went with Cook It Media. They helped you with your brand. Was that so if we were, I'm just kind of trying to paint this story for everybody. You had a blog that was doing fairly well. I mean, according to most people's standards.
Right.
But your goal was to take it even further. And so
Yes.
or identifying your brand was a part of that.
Yes. Oh, identifying my brand and my story and having clarity on what I was trying to do on the site. Yes. So
That gave you a sense of purpose in the work that you were doing. And did the anxiety go away as a result?
yes, now it's a joy to figure out what recipes I'm going to do. There's not enough time to do all the recipes that I want to do, and they resonate with my readers and my audience. And I get these emails. I have this one recipe. It's called hot milk cake, and it's something my grandma made, and it's from the Depression when milk was really or I think it was butter was scarce, so you used more milk. I can't remember exactly what the story is, but I get these emails from people in their 60s and their 70s and their 80s, and they say, I ate this growing up and I've been looking for the recipe and thank you so much. And, I put caramel sauce on mine, or, you should add chocolate sauce because that's how we ate it. But
Yeah.
it's so rewarding.
Ah, that's a lovely story. I love that. And creates a very engaged audience at that point.
Right, exactly.
It could mean that your demographic is different than some blogs too.
Yes, it for sure is, because I don't do the one pot, 5 ingredient, 10-minute meals.
Yeah.
Because the other part, along with Midwestern food, is people who love to cook. That's the other side. So that's the other thing. Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes like these trendy topics, like let's say it could be chia seeds, just for example, and all of a sudden you feel like you've got to do some chia recipes too, and maybe it doesn't fit with your brand or whatever, but sometimes it feels like that audience can also be very, what is the word? Like temporary, like they just come and they go really fast.
And that's exactly right. And I used to worry about the trends, and now I don't pay attention to them, and it doesn't inform the content that I create.
Ah, I love this. This is a really great story so far.
Well, thank you, Marley.
Yes. Okay, so what are some other things that you did? I mean, I know that we have a mutual friend, which is Casey Marquis. He was on the podcast a few episodes ago talking about SEO for food bloggers. I know that you worked with him. Was that an impact for you as well?
Yes, that was the big thing that happened for me, was working with Casey and just getting my SEO in order and figuring out all the nuances of republishing content and keyword research. And he just really loaded up my toolbox, and I did the things that he said. And if you want the numbers, I'm happy to share. I went from about 400,000 page views a month to 1.2 million page views per month in a 10-month period, from about February 2016 to the end of 2016. And I hired him in February 2016, started implementing his changes. And yeah, that's where I ended up by the end of last year.
Wow. And I would say that I have received some recommendations from Casey as well, and it resulted in quite a bit of tedious work, but it is so worth going through all that. And then if you felt good about the branding side, don't you feel good when you know that you're doing the SEO right?
Well, I have that type A personality, so every change is in a spreadsheet and it's tracked.
Yes, me too.
When I fix the alt tags, the post gets an X, and
yes. I actually even created in my spreadsheet, it calculated the percent done. So I could, at any given moment, I could look and see I am 30% done or I'm 80% done.
That's awesome. Actually, my assistant said she wanted to do that. So
I can show her how. Let me know. Yes, that is the only way to go. It worked out really well, and I'm just so task focused. I mean, I have an assistant that helped me with that as well, and so we were all working on it together, and it was just, I was really happy when it was done.
Well, and I just feel like doing those things, I've seen the positive effects. So it's not like he's just saying, hey, you should do this because I said so.
Right.
I see the results. I mean, he knows his stuff. He reads Google Patents for fun. I cannot. I mean, I recommend Casey constantly, and
Yeah.
I between that and the branding, I mean, I owe so much to him. I owe so much to Cook It, and obviously, I did a lot of work myself too.
Yeah, and you had the vision, and you had to know that I need to make some changes to reach that vision. And here are some. Okay, what I have to say I love about this, Megan, is that I feel like so many of us are out there trying to do everything on our own.
Yes, and hiring experts is one of the best ways that you can grow your blog.
Yes,
Yeah.
should be any professional. They all
Yes.
have people they've hired to coach them.
Yeah, investing in yourself it pays off so in such big ways. And I feel like and even like the branding agency, it was expensive. I had to save some money for it. But doing that, I mean, one, I think it really lights a fire when you shell out that kind of money. Like you do the work,
Yes.
you show up and you're there and you're all in. But that's when the biggest change happens. It's hiring experts and failure where the growth comes from, I think.
Yes, I feel like that. I've read that about Americans, like we do everything wrong before we finally give up and do it right, or something like that. I kind of
Yes.
feel like I have that motto sometimes. Like it's like I have to do it my way 1,000 times, and then it's like, okay, fine, let me get some help here.
Right. Well, and the other thing I would say about Casey is not only did my traffic skyrocket, but about 50% of it is Google. So I'm not going for the Pinterest viral situation. It happens sometimes, but it really is the SEO piece. And so the branding is I know what to do, and the SEO piece is I know how to do it to get it to do well in Google.
Oh, that's nice because also it means, if you are only relying on Pinterest, then when they change their algorithm for whatever reason,
Which they always do.
which they always do, right? And then it's like you're left floundering, trying to figure out what to do next.
Right. And it's not to say that Google wouldn't do the same thing.
Sure.
I mean, the important thing about blogging is to keep your eggs in different baskets and, try different things and have different revenue streams. So if something goes down, you're not, totally out of water. But yeah.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what do you think are the things that if we're talking about taking your blog from good to great, and you just talked about some of the things that you did to make your good blog go great. What do you think are some of the things that helped you get your blog to good?
Well, I think that when I think of recipes to search for, there are two parts to the question of what should I blog. And one thing is, well, obviously, like, what do I want to blog? But I use the keyword tool to see what's being searched. And I tell this to bloggers when they complain about their traffic, and they say, well, I want to do tiramisu, but I want to put my own twist on it. And I think that when you put your twist on things, that might do well on Pinterest, but it's not going to get you Google traffic.
Yes.
And I'm not saying you should do tiramisu because that's highly competitive, but the idea is that you want to use the keyword tool to figure out what people are searching for. And then the second thing you want to do is search after let's say it's tiramisu, or maybe something that's not quite so crazy. I don't have a good example. We'll stick with tiramisu.
Okay.
So obviously people search for tiramisu, but then the other question is who has already blogged tiramisu? And the reason that I like to look at that is if the very big, like the giant best bloggers or the very popular food sites, the Food 52, The Kitchen, Serious Eats, Pioneer Woman, if they've done tiramisu, it's going to be hard for you to rank for that.
Yes.
Right? So what you want, the sweet spot is what are people searching for, but the popular bloggers haven't thought of it yet.
So instead of like coffee tiramisu, you could do green tea tiramisu. No.
Well,
that doesn't sound very good, but maybe it would be very.
it's not really, no, because the thing is nobody's searching for green tea tiramisu.
Yes.
So here's an example. My first recipe that went viral was chipotle chicken. And
Okay.
here's why. It's a copycat recipe, but it's kind of a pain to make. You have to soak dried chilies and you make this marinade. And the recipes that were out there involved like putting it on a grill with this foil covered brick. And it was just, I think it's more than the one pot meal crowd, the 5-minute easy recipe crowd wants. It was a little bit labor intensive. So nobody really did it nobody ever gave it the treatment that it needed. And I did because I cook for fun. And I rank number 1 for the chipotle chicken copycat recipe. And that was my first thing that took off.
Wow.
Because it was something people searched for, but nobody had really done it correctly. And
I imagine it's a highly competitive term.
I don't know if it is. I mean, I think it got more competitive when they started having all those health problems at the restaurants, and then people wanted the food, but they wanted to make it at home.
Yes.
But people are searching for that, but it wasn't necessarily done by the very biggest bloggers. It was an opening in the market.
So now, I see. So that's where you use the same search term or keyword, I'm sorry, but your recipe was different.
Right. My recipe was done the way that it needed to be done. It wasn't like a quick hack. Yes. It was the true version.
Yes. Okay.
So I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's not that you want to put a spin on it. If you want Google traffic, I think you need to start with the classics, but you have to find the classics or the things that people want that haven't been done. I don't know if that makes sense.
Right. But, a chocolate chip cookie. There's no way you're going to rank for that ever.
Right. You aren't. Unless you're one of the very biggest bloggers, then by all means do it because you already have the authority.
Yes.
But if you can find some obscure recipe in a church cookbook, and then you can see that people are searching for it, and you can see that nobody has really done much with it, so you do the keyword research.
I have an example of that. I did an elderberry pie recipe because my neighbor had this elderberry bush, and I love the idea of making an elderberry pie. I had no idea about SEO at the time, and I ranked pretty highly for that.
Right.
It's an example of not a lot of people are writing about elderberry pies.
Right, but people are searching for it.
Yes. But I see what you're saying is finding a term like that also rank or people are searching for.
Yes. And I feel like it's hard to explain, but it
is.
So, and one that I'm working on now is venison recipes because I grew up in Wisconsin. I grew up, my dad, my brother hunt. I took hunter safety. We would carve the carcass on the table every year. The deer would hang. I know you're a vegan. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
The deer would hang in the garage and we would chop it up as a family, and I think that when you get to hunting season, there are hundreds of thousands of people looking for venison recipes, but the popular bloggers aren't doing them because it's hard to get venison meat. They didn't grow up eating it necessarily. They don't know how to cook it. They might not even like it.
Yes.
But I can check all those boxes.
I don't know. It's an interesting way of saying it, but like you say, not everybody's doing a recipe like that. So
yes, I think it's finding the sweet spot of what is the world searching for, which you find in the keyword tool, and what isn't being written about by bloggers. That is where the great opportunities for Google growth lie.
It reminds me of that book. Have you read that book called it's Blue Ocean Strategies?
I have not.
It's a book about marketing. And what they talk about is a lot of us are in these, red, blood-filled, shark-infested waters. Like we're all competing over the same little piece of meat. And their point is move over to the blue ocean strategy where there isn't as much competition. That's exactly what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, yes. And I'm not recommending that everybody does venison because that's mine. I'm calling it. Just kidding. But you understand the idea, I hope.
Yes.
I hope I've explained it enough by now and beaten this horse to death that you...
Yes, I think there is this tendency to think that we all have to do the banana bread recipe. We all have to do these things that everybody else is doing because that's kind of an expectation. But I'm hearing that. So in my mind, the way to differentiate yourself was through like creative photography. But there's another way to differentiate. I can't even say that word. Differentiate yourself, and that is through the recipes that you choose to feature.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do banana bread because you absolutely should do banana bread if you want to do banana bread, but you should not expect to grow your blog from banana bread. Now, if you can take the best picture, you might be able to get your Pinterest viral situation going on.
Yes.
Or if you do chocolate chip banana matcha mascarpone banana bread, that's fine, but you're not going to rank in Google. So go do that for your, if you want to do a video and put it on Facebook, fine. If you want to try to go viral on Pinterest, that's fine. But when it comes to Google, that is not going to work.
Yes, it's so do you have a favorite tool that you use for keyword research?
I just use the Google one.
Okay.
I think it's just called the Google keyword tool. It's in AdWords. I know that there are other ones that people use. That's just what I've always used.
And so I could just see you sitting there, you spend some time kind of looking for different recipes that, I can even imagine you with your grandma's cookbook right next to you. Yeah.
Like there's one called Preacher's Delight, which is basically like a cream cheese spaghetti made with egg noodles. But that nobody searches for Preacher's Delight. So if I want to do that recipe, I'm going to title it something different, maybe spaghetti cream cheese, but it's made with egg noodles. So we'll see. But I want to do that recipe, and I can absolutely do that, but I'm not going to expect to get tons of Google traffic from it because no one is searching for that. I think it's just good to have expectations for the content that you're creating. Don't do banana bread thinking that you're going to take over the world with it.
Yeah.
That's basically how I feel. And I also, I try to do 90% of my content on brand, and then I leave 10% for whatever I want to do.
I like that.
If I want to do vegan chia seed pudding, I can,
Yes.
Which I don't want to.
It keeps your audience kind of surprised sometimes too, which is good, right?
Right. Well, and I do all kinds of weird stuff in culinary school, and I just want to have the space to, add that to my blog if it feels right.
So let's talk about culinary school since you brought that up.
Hey.
When did you enroll?
I started last August.
And are you loving it?
I do love it. And I'm in a community college program that's in Santa Clarita, which is where I live. And so it's just 2 days a week, but they're 2 long days. I go from about 9 in the morning until 3 or 3:30. And at the end of the...
How long is the program?
Well, so it's because it's a community college, it's not the full-time cohort group. So they say that if you take everything aggressively, you can be done in 18 months. I probably have at least another year left just at the pace that I'm going with everything I have going on.
Yes.
So
I did an online, it was a plant-based certification program that I did, and it was 6 months and fairly intensive. And I learned so much. There's so much to learn about. It's really a science.
Right. It is. And I feel like when you get there, you don't know what you don't know. And then you realize you don't know anything. And it's all the basics. So
even down to just how you chop onions,
which is such a great skill. I love that.
Yes. And how to sharpen a knife. There's just so many things that, how to take care of your knives, all of that.
Yeah, it's been so fun. And what I really love is being around other people who are so passionate about food. Obviously, food bloggers are, but I feel like chefs and people who want to be chefs are a whole new level of crazy about food, And so it's just being in that environment is just really fun and inspiring and gets the creative juices flowing and just really inspires me.
I was going to say, because I feel like a lot of us spend so many hours behind the computer, and I find that to be one of the least inspiring things, unless I'm at Pinterest seeing 1,000 photos come through. But,
right.
Even that is not inspiring in the right. It's not like in feeding my soul, I guess is the way I'd say it.
Right. No, that's a really nice way to put it. Yeah. This for sure feeds my soul.
Yeah, because you're investing in yourself and in your growth and who you want to be. I think that's so cool.
And it's fun to network with people outside of food blogging too, I think.
Yes. I had that feeling when I went to IACP last year. It's the International Association of Culinary Professionals. Yep. I know you know that. I was just saying it for everybody else.
Okay. Sorry.
It is such a great conference, and I felt like there was such a level of professionalism there. People went up and talked to each other as if they were professional people doing so, and I loved that.
Yeah, it's a really fun, unique conference because it's not just, food blogging and how to take photos and how to work with brands. I mean, that stuff might be there too, but you really get a different side of food at those events. And
yes.
I love IACP.
I felt like there were a lot of very real people too. Like, in other words, I don't know how to say this. Sometimes I feel like at food blogging conferences, there's this intimidation to look a certain way and be, and yeah. I feel like at a professional conference like ICP, it was very, some people show up in their jeans and a t-shirt and no makeup. And I just think that's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. I agree with you completely.
Yeah. And I really love the idea of bringing that level of professionalism to food blogging as well. That's a goal of mine, at least. So let's talk a little bit. I also wanted to ask you about a couple other things that you're doing on your site right now. Are you including video?
Yes, I'm working on video. I feel like I'm a little behind on that, but I'm doing the tasty style videos like everybody else. I'm just ramping it up. Yes. I actually just hired somebody to help me with the editing, and I did the Show Me the Yummy workshop in Madison last fall, and that was so helpful. If anybody isn't sure about video, I feel like that's the best place to go because I went in there just wanting to know even what lights do they use? How do they set them up? What are they doing? And Trevor has so much experience. So somebody that has 20 years of experience getting his workflow is I just want a shortcut. my knowledge. And so that was a really great way to do it. And then of course they offer it all online. So I did that. And then, like I said, although I learned how to edit, because I want to scale that faster rather than slower, I do have somebody that I just brought on to help me with editing.
So you do the filming and then they come through and edit for you?
Yes. Yeah. Because I did invest in the lights and an extra camera and stuff. And I like that. And I have a certain style that I want. And maybe at some point I can outsource that. But right now I'm happy to just even offload the editing.
Yes. And then you can just tell them what you want. And that's there's some brilliance in that as well.
Yes. I trained her with my style and she's awesome. She's listening. I'm very grateful.
Oh, that's good. So I noticed on Facebook that you've got 100,000 followers on Culinary Hill. That's really impressive. And do you think adding video has been a part of that?
Yeah, I'm sure it has been. I feel like that's everybody's secret these days.
Yes, videos are hot on Facebook.
Yeah, so that's why I definitely want to stay in that space. And even beyond that, if that changes, I think video is for sure the future. And it's how people want to consume content now. So.
Right. So we might, that's all the trends are saying, video is king. So
right.
I have found that it's actually increased a lot of engagement that I have on Facebook, which is great.
Yes, I agree with you completely. Yeah.
And I feel like of the social media sites, let me say this right, probably Pinterest and Facebook are the ones that I think are most relatable as far as traffic to my site is concerned.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think I get as much Facebook traffic as some other people do. And it might just be the kinds of recipes that I'm posting. Like one that I just did was a pink lemonade vodka slush, which is really good if you drink.
I saw that, by the way.
I recommend that. But it's literally like, you get an old ice cream, an empty, clean ice cream pail. And you put in a can of lemonade concentrate and some vodka and a bottle of soda and you freeze it. So nobody really needs a recipe for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's why I don't always see the traffic to my blog, but I see the engagement on Facebook.
Yes, exactly. I see that. But I was going to ask you about that because I noticed on Instagram that you actually print the recipe right there with the picture.
I do. Isn't that freaks everybody out? At least bloggers.
They're like, out.
Why are you doing that? So here's the thing. I have not concerned myself with getting people to click over to my blog from Instagram. What I want to do is provide value on that platform. And if that means that I put the recipe there, I'm happy to do it if somebody gets a benefit. And people have left comments like, oh, thank you so much for this recipe. And yeah, I might be losing some traffic, but honestly, I'm not going to worry about it. I feel like a person is more likely to be grateful and then maybe go look at my site another time, or maybe they really are going to cook from their tiny phone with this recipe and the tiny words. I don't know. I just want to provide value.
Yeah, I like that. And the fact that you're getting feedback from people is a pretty good sign that, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think it makes the whole, and I have my assistant helps me with the Instagram captions and things and scheduling. And I want that to just be a no-brainer, And so that's why I do it. And I feel great about it. And I know some people have tried to talk me out of it. And it's just like, no, I'm doing my own thing. Head down, this is my path. And it involves free recipes on Instagram. And I'm okay with that.
I like it. Okay, so we're talking here on the topic of good to great. I was just curious along those lines. Could you describe what the journey towards success has felt like to you? Has it been one straight line, or have you had times where you've doubted yourself?
Well, I for sure doubt myself constantly. I struggle with jealousy of other bloggers a lot. And whenever I see somebody doing something great, I have to hold myself back from getting distracted and doing that, because I know deep down that I have my own path and I have my own goals. I have my own plan, but it's really easy to get derailed or distracted by other people. I have to just remind myself. And I feel like right now I'm in a pretty good place, but I know in the past, it's like the foil packet dinners. It's the same story, but it could be something else. I can't think of it immediately. Awesome. Like Facebook Live. I'm not really doing Facebook Live. I know I should be. I don't have the bandwidth right now, and I just have to make peace with that. And a year ago, I should have started doing the videos the way that I'm doing them now, and I decided to go to culinary school instead. I made that choice, Sometimes I wonder, when I see people with 3 million Facebook fans,
Yes.
I wonder if I made the right choice. But based on my goals, I feel good about it. But there's a lot of doubt there, like maybe I should have joined this sooner or done this sooner. And I never really did Tumblr. I remember when everybody was doing Tumblr, and there's like little things that all of a sudden people are like, what's Flipboard? And
Or what is that one that was with Twitter? I can't even think of the name of it now.
Periscope.
Yeah, Periscope was one, but there was like, Vine.
Oh, Vine, right.
Everybody was talking about Vine. Like, you've got to do,
Right.
It's a little overwhelming.
And there's a lot of doubt that goes into like saying no to those things. And I don't know, I don't want to say this regret. It's not that dramatic, but I have my goals, and I read my goals every day, and it just really helps me focus, and I try not to get distracted. But yeah, it's for sure a thing.
I love that. So you've written down, you don't have to name them right now, but maybe you have 4 or 5 goals and you read them every day.
Well, I have a 3-year vision. So I have like a 3-page essay of where I want to be in 3 years. And I read it every morning.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank you. Yes. So, and I mentioned this to you before we started the call, that I'm working with a mentor, Jada Sellner. So this is part of her plan, and she helped me develop the 3-year vision. And every morning I read it.
Does that make you feel, just so connected to your purpose?
I feel like the vision is big and very concrete, and it's so helpful. Like I know how to say yes and no to things, and I know what my priorities are. And I still have the moments of doubt and jealousy and getting derailed and distracted, but I have a way to recenter and to focus.
Now, that's the other thing I wanted to point out is that I heard you say you're in a mentor group. I'm in a mastermind group of a small group of women. So I totally get that. And I just can't say enough the power of connecting with other people and being a part of their vision and them being a part of mine. It's amazing.
Right. Well, in my group, I'm the only food blogger. So that's also interesting because everyone has a different area of expertise, but they're all really doing well. And it's the energy's great.
Yeah, I just think finding ways, we talked about hiring experts to help you, but also, finding ways to connect with other people who are also extremely motivated, whether it's food blogging or something else. I think it really helps.
It really does.
They all tell you that, right? To connect with other people that are highly motivated. And I always wondered, well, how does that happen? And then this mastermind came along. It was just perfect. So I think.
Well, and that's awesome. And I'm one of those people who's like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
But I hired Jada, and then, the other people that hired her are the people. But we're all at like a similar mindset, motivation, business success level, etc. So you can either be, yours just came along. Well, I paid for mine, but it's still great. And it's so helpful and necessary, I think, at this point for me.
Yeah. You said something else before I hit record, and I would love for you to talk about that some more. And that is the difference between hitting 1.2 million and 500,000.
Oh, well, this is, if anybody hasn't hit 1.2 million, this is going to make you really sad. It feels the same as hitting 500,000. Maybe it's just me, but I've heard other bloggers say that or something similar. The idea is that, you're always going to want more. And so when I hit 1 million, I thought like champagne would pop open and balloons would fall from the sky and I would feel like I had arrived or something like that. And of course it doesn't feel that way. And you can see that everyone that is big wants to get bigger, and we never stop striving. And I guess there were some changes, and there was certainly a high five moment like, hey, guess what? But really it feels the same.
That's so good to know, I think, because I think a lot of people are, like you say, are expecting that, Mary Tyler Moore, throw your hat up in the air moment.
Right.
The world has now changed, but it's all still the same. It's just the same work that has to happen. And
it's just now you want to go for 2 million. That's it. It's like, okay, well, now I have 12 months to get to 2 million.
You set your sights even higher.
Yes. And I think that's that level of ambition and drive is what gets somebody to 1 million.
Yes.
And obviously we all work really hard. Right. And unfortunately it doesn't stop at 1 million. Maybe one of the giant bloggers out there can tell me that like when you hit 5 million, you calm down, but I doubt it. I feel like they're all doing the videos too. They're all stepping up their game. Like everybody works really hard. So I feel like it's It never ends. Not that it doesn't feel good, but it doesn't feel like what I thought it would.
Well, I think what I think I heard from you when we were talking about this before, and what I think I'm hearing from you now is that the difference is like you don't have an if-then attitude. So if I get this, if I get 100,000, if I get 500,000, if I get 1,000,000 page views, then I will be happy. It's that if-then that kind of can make you feel disappointed, but you know that your happiness is here with you right now.
Right. Well, it's about enjoying the journey for sure. If you don't like blogging, then you shouldn't, it's probably not the thing for you. But for me, it also, when I hit 1,000,000 and it felt the same, I had this desire to find something more, the deeper meaning. And that was when I hired a mentor and wanted to start exploring that, because I realized that, 5 years from now, I can't still just be putting recipes on a website or doing videos or whatever the one thing is. Like I need to find something more. And that's why I hired her.
And so that 3-page essay that you read every morning is a part of you. I mean, I guess I imagine like this hamster wheel that a lot of us can get on in food blogging it's a way of you like purposely recognizing that you're doing something different than that hamster wheel. You're on your own path.
I am. And if I don't want to do XYZ that everyone else is doing, I don't have to. Here's an example. Okay. I got invited just, I think it was last week. I got invited on a trip to Italy from a brand.
Nice.
It's obviously all expenses paid, and that sounds awesome. And I'm going to say no. And you're going to say, why?
Okay, let me say it. Why?
Because it's not in line with my goals. Oh. I don't think that it's going to move the needle on the things that matter most. Yeah. And it probably sounds crazy. And it's like, well, what's 4 or 5 days in Italy? How does that really derail everything? But it upsets my routine and my schedule, and it's hard on my family. And I just don't think it's the best use of my time.
Yeah.
And because I have this 3-year vision, my goal is not to be a jet setter or to be a food/travel blogger. I know what my goals are, and yeah, so I guess that's what I mean when I'm doing my own path, because nobody else is saying no to that trip. But
yes. Yeah, that's a very good point. When you're saying no to something, that's how you know you're on the right path. I love that.
Yeah. And I still have moments of doubt. I'm like, wow, am I really going to say no? But I don't think it's like I said, it's not going to move the needle on the things that matter most for me.
Well, and you know what? It makes me realize that this 3-page essay with your goals on it, how important that is, because, I mean, think about the average food blogger is just out there just so busy. I really think we're on this hamster wheel doing all these things that we see everybody else is doing. That's how I think you kind of fall prey to saying yes to things that are not in your alignment.
Yeah, I for sure agree. And I don't think that people even know. You don't realize. And the only reason I have ever realized any of these things is because I've hired people to help me.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're just in the weeds. You're in the thick of it, and you're doing what everyone else does. And I mean, yeah, a free trip to Italy sounds awesome.
Yes.
But then if you don't have somebody or something to look at to remind you why you're doing this, what's your why? Where are you trying to go? Yeah. You'll do it. And I'm so grateful that I have that direction to guide me.
It's so true. And it's actually the one thing that not just the one thing, it's one of the things that I miss about my corporate job is I actually enjoy collaborating with other people. So for me to find ways to collaborate, even if that's hiring people, it really does help me tremendously. It
really does. It's just nice to have somebody on your team. Yes. I feel like Casey is on my team, Cookit's on my team, Jada's on my team. Yes. These other people, I work with Andrew Wilder from the Blog Tutor.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's on my team, and I have a designer, Purr's on my team. I feel like I'm really supported and obviously I have the assistant and I have the video editor, and yeah.
Your team is growing. That's good.
Well, I mean, most of those people aren't really on my team. I just say they are. I don't pay, they're not like employees. They're just contractors, but I adore them.
Yes. Well, and I think they're people that you speak out loud to and talk to, right? Like whoever I feel like sometimes for me, I think I'm on the line between extrovert and introvert, but for me, speaking it is when it becomes real and when I really start to formalize my thoughts. So even people just that you can talk to is important.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Okay, so I love to ask these kind of fun, quick questions at the end of the interview. Are you up for it?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay,
Lay
let's
it
do
on
it.
me.
Okay, what's one food item you cannot live without?
Cheeseburgers.
Cheeseburger. Do you sing that song, Cheeseburgers in Paradise?
No, yeah, I don't know. I don't.
What's your favorite way to do cheeseburger?
Well,
American cheese, cheddar cheese? I mean, what do you do?
so it would be American cheese with lettuce and mayonnaise and pickles.
Okay.
But I also like a lot of the like hipster craft burgers with crazy stuff like bacon jam and Gruyere and I don't know.
Do you make them at home mostly, or do you have a place that you go to get them?
Some of each. There's a really great place that's just down the street. It's called Rustic Burger that we go to a lot, and I love their food. But they have like these great brioche buns, and it's just amazing. Very filling.
There's something about the bun too.
Yes, and they serve tater tots with them. So I feel like you just can't go wrong.
With tater tots, oh, I totally agree. They are so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if anybody comes to Santa Clarita, let me know. I'll take you to Rustic Burger.
What if I come? Do they have a veggie burger?
Yes.
Oh, they do?
Oh, yeah.
This
is LA, baby.
Oh, that's right. They have to have a veggie. It's probably a law there, huh?
Yes, it's probably the best veggie burger that you've ever had.
I'm sure it's true. Okay, what's the favorite app on your phone?
Gosh, what is the favorite? Sorry, I'm unprepared. 1Password.
1Password. I have that. I love that.
Yeah, it's so great because I have it on all the kids' iPads and mine, and yeah, it's the best.
Explain to all the good people what 1Password is.
So it's basically a program on the internet or a web app or whatever you want to call it that has apps for your tablets and devices, and it just keeps track of all of your passwords. So you have one master password that's like super long. It's basically a sentence. It could be something like, I love cheeseburgers in Los Angeles, like something really long that only you would ever know. And then when you type that in, it opens up this screen with all of your other passwords for everything. So if let's say the Twitter app isn't on my phone, but then my baggage gets delayed at United and I have to leave a mean tweet. This may or may not have just happened. I have really long passwords because, security and everything. So my passwords are all like 50 characters. So I don't remember them, but I can just open this app, get my Twitter password, reinstall the app, and leave my nasty tweet for United.
Yes. It's perfect. Yeah,
it's great. Just especially as I've gotten, and because I have this, I can have these super long, convoluted passwords.
Yeah, and it even suggests passwords for you that are super secure. So.
Yes. Well, the other thing I do is I use the Teams version, so my assistant has it too, so I can have the passwords for the different programs that she needs access to, like Dropbox, I think I have Teams for that, but like Facebook and all my social media stuff where she needs my account information, but I don't want to send her emails with those. I don't want her writing them down on Post-it notes.
Exactly.
So she has the app too, and she can use it on her computer and on her phone, and yeah, we can share those.
Sign in quickly and do what she needs to do for you and sign back out and be on her own account.
Yes.
Ah, that is really brilliant.
So she has access to the ones that she needs, which is great.
Ah, that's so perfect. I honestly, I use 1Password on my desktop, but I haven't, my husband has it on his phone and he keeps bugging me to put it on my phone. So now you've inspired me. I'm going to put it on my phone.
Well, I think the reason there's the Twitter thing, but also if I want to buy something through iTunes, I don't know my Apple ID password because it's 50 characters or whatever. Wow. So if I ever want to do anything in there or even connect to the cloud, I have to have it. Yes. And then I have it on my kids for the same reason. If they need something, if we want to enable FaceTime or whatever, you need that Apple ID password.
Yes.
And so rather than try to write down 50 characters on a Post-it and screw it up, it's in there and it's perfect.
Okay, so you seem to me like the kind of person who is not going to be able to answer this question, but I'm going to ask just in case. Do you have time for TV at all? And if you do, what's your favorite show?
Well, I think TV comes and goes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I make time for it. I think it would be hard to pick a favorite show. I really like Archer.
I don't even know that show. What is that?
Well, it's basically an animated show that was on FX that's very adult in language and themes, but it's about a spy agency. It's full of bad language and nudity. Not really nudity, it's animated, but
yeah.
It's not like, it's not for people under 17. But it's just funny. I just want to be entertained. I don't want anything serious. Yes. I don't want dramas. I don't want to have to think. Like, I just want to sit back and laugh. So I like that show.
I have mentioned this several times on this podcast, but that's one of the reasons I really love Jane the Virgin. Have you ever watched that show?
No.
It's on Netflix, and you should
I'll get it.
It's just fun. I mean, there is one murder, but it's like it's all very light. It's like they turned it's a soap opera, and it's like a telenovela, so it's like a Mexican soap opera.
Yes.
It's funny. I have never seen something like this before. It is so lighthearted and good, and I just enjoy it. I really do.
That's good. I mean, there's for sure murder in Archer, but it's animated.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like I don't know if I'd say dark humor more than lighthearted, but it's not like super dark. It's just entertainment.
Oh, I'm gonna have to. It's definitely going on my list. I'm gonna check it out. Is it on Netflix?
It's on Netflix. Yes.
Okay. Is everything on Netflix? I think it is.
No, there's a few kids shows that aren't, and there's something else that I want to watch, but I can't think of. Most of it is.
Yes. Yeah. Season 3 of Jane the Virgin is not on Netflix yet. I'm holding out.
It will get there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. How can people find you online?
Well, I'm at culinaryhill.com, and on all the social medias, I'm Culinary Hill.
Wonderful. I have had such a good time talking with you, Meggan. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Marley. It was such a pleasure.
Thanks to Meggan Hill for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. Be sure to sign up today for the Chopped Academy Maximizing Blog Visibility webinar so you can take advantage of early bird pricing and learn more about SEO tools that can transform your site. Go to chopped.academy/webinar to buy your ticket today. Thanks to everyone for your support of the Chopped Podcast. Your reviews on iTunes and Stitcher make such a big impact. It takes only a few seconds of your time, and it really means so much. We also appreciate your reviews on social media as well. Please keep spreading the word. You inspire me, and I hope today's show was helpful and inspirational to you as well. Now go forth and be your best you.